Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing? This is Shabazz with the proper perspective. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to make sure everything is working properly. How y'all doing? Thank you for joining in. Let me stop the share. Go full screen. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? This is Shabazz with the proper perspective. Thank you for tuning in. This is the YouTube channel. Trying to go live, trying to make sure everything is popping. So I got to do a couple of sound checks, check my mics, check my phones. So stay tuned for a hot second while hopefully I'll give you something to listen to and be entertained by while I do these checks. So check out this song I'm playing in the background. Y'all tell me what y'all think about the song.
Is to stop denying black people their
Well, if free black America is the #1 tactic, then all this geriatric theatrics is bombastic. Political gymnastics, the act slick bastards with fork-tongue fuckery, and all we get is jack shit while bending over backwards. So loyal to their hat tricks that all we ever prove is how foolish and bad shit crazy they done drove us. Praying to Jehovah's and Jesuses and Josephs. The thesis is all bogus. They only hand out jokers and slick-witted cobras that slither around in silence and set us up like Oprah. For us to argue over, it's a new plantation, whether or not you know, cause ain't nothing gon' change, not one iota. Till we take it upon ourselves and go for broke for. If it ain't for reparations, then what's to vote for? If it ain't for reparations, ain't no point to vote, bruh.
We must understand white supremacy, what this country does. It enslaves black people. We must understand white supremacy, what this country does. It enslaves
Y'all hear the music?
people. The only act that white people can do is to stop.
What y'all think about that song? Drop something for me in the chat. Drop something for me in the chat. Trying to make sure we got this popping. I'm about to go live on my other platforms, just trying to make sure this thing is working correctly. It looks like I am definitely live on Facebook. That's good. Now I got to make sure I'm live in effect on YouTube. Let me see. So how y'all doing? It is Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now it looks like okay, so now I know I'm live on YouTube. Everything is working copacetically. I think that's a word. Is that a word? Let me do a double check. Okay, now let me edit this post because something is wrong with the post. Now we situated. So as I normally do, I give it a few minutes to see if YouTube is going to do what they say they do. They say they send out the notifications. I got a few people. I got a few subscribers. So there should be a few people watching. It should be some people getting notifications. We're talking about the Ukraine tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about a little bit of everything. Ukraine, Zelensky, orangutan, and his crew. I want to know what y'all think. Do we care? Should we care? I'm going to put this in the chat. Do y'all care about the Ukraine war? Russia etc., etc. Do y'all care? Does it matter to you at all? I know I got my own little personal opinion, but I'm slowly walking this on up to the front room. Like I said, okay, yeah. So my mics are on. I'm going live on all my other platforms. So, well, at least I'm making the attempt. How y'all doing out there, ladies and gentlemen? What's going on, brothers and sisters, black people? How y'all doing from all over the world? What's going on with you tonight? This is Shabazz with the Proper Perspective. I'm coming to you live on all the platforms I can possibly manage. That's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We're going to get it started a little bit tonight. You know, I got to wait, trying to make sure that my mics are correct, trying to make sure that the notifications go out before I really get it started. So, but we are talking about the Ukraine tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about the fiasco in the White House. Let's see. Let me see. Somebody is sending me some kind of message. I don't even know what it said. Invites me to co-host. Okay, now I don't know how this is gonna work. This will be my first time. Well, I was about to do it, but it didn't. It disappeared on me, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see. But I am being told we're telling your followers that you've started a live video. So that's why I'm trying to like slow this thing up a little bit and just give it a couple of minutes before I jump into my little lecture, my little classroom instruction proceedings, my conversation as it might be. Let me see. Where are we? Where are we? If I let me see. Let me see. I still got a couple of people joining. So shout out to anybody that's joining. Invite somebody, keep going. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I kind of say this every time I do this. I'm most knowledgeable about YouTube. I appreciate anybody joining me on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, but I'm most knowledgeable about YouTube. I really rather prefer you jump on over to YouTube. I need those likes on my YouTube page. I need those notification bells to be hit, smacked, and ringing and singing on my YouTube page. So I would appreciate it if you take a minute to jump on over to YouTube, even if you prefer to stay here on whichever one. You could drop me a message. Are you on? Especially if you're on YouTube, what's your preference? The chat room is wide open and waiting for you. So shout out to Felton Barbara who joined on Instagram. Shout out to Alex and Huge Nugget and the Quiet One who joined on TikTok, and Mr. Ias on TikTok. Shout out to Laura Elizabeth 68 on Instagram. Again, everybody, thank you for joining in. Hope you stay the whole time. Hope you come over to youtube.com/ at the proper perspective. What we are talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is why should any black group, why should any black population, I mean all black people in America, black people in the Caribbean, why should we care about the Ukraine? Why should we care about the war in and of itself? Now, I'm talking about this in general, but also specifically, yes, in response to that little fiasco last week. I think it was last week, where Shady Vance and Orangutan tried to gang up on poor little Mr. Zelensky and make him feel bad about not wearing a suit and make him bow down and kiss the rings so that he could continue getting all those millions and billions of dollars. So I want to know, like, do we care? Should we care? Are we taking sides in this conflict? It's a very interesting turn of events. Lots of people were talking about it on all sides of the political spectrum. But as I'm watching it and I'm listening, I'm like, I don't know. I feel a way. I feel some kind of way. I feel like it ain't none of my business. And so I start thinking to myself, and as I start thinking, if you know me, I like to write my things down, my thoughts out. And so I was like, okay, let me get this straight. So black folks in America, black folks in Africa, black folks in Jamaica, we all, whatever, black folks in Canada, we supposed to be, I don't know, losing sleep. We supposed to be holding on to our last good nerve over the Zelensky debacle. We supposed to be losing sleep over the Trump inaugural address. We supposed to be losing sleep over the Trump not inaugural address, the State of the Union. Like that's supposed to be like really making us clutch the pearls, as they say. I'm just like him, Muscat felon Elon Musk, whatever his name is. Him, Shady Vance, Orangutan, you know, they cussing out Zelensky. We supposed to be gasping like we saw the rent due notice and don't have the money. Like, I'm having a hard time understanding why I need to care. So I'm asking a question. Now, if you're on YouTube, please feel free to say something in the chat. I'll put it on the screen. We could talk about it even more. I'd love to hear your opinion. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I gotta keep saying on YouTube because I have a problem. Like the only way I can definitely 100% manage your input is if it's done on YouTube. If you say something in the live on TikTok or Instagram, I may even miss it on the screen, but I can't pull it into the whole conversation. So youtube.com/at the proper perspective. That's where you could come and then actually be invited to participate live into this thing. But somebody please explain to me why. Because from where I'm sitting, Ukraine is giving us zero reasons. You know, like they said, got zero F's to give. How many F's have they given for us? They've given us zero reasons to be invested in this little tug of war thing they got going on with Russia. And I'm like, and so it really kind of it bugs me a little bit. Like I'm kind of used to the envelopians, the palm colored people. I'm used to them being in uproars over this type of scenario. You know, they're heavily invested in all this white on white gangster earth crime. But why should we? What do we have to gain from this? That's what I want to know. Let me see. Shout out to Genome Gina, who joined in on Instagram. Let me try to hit these little wave buttons if that's gonna help. Wave, wave, wave. I see y'all. I hear you. I see y'all. Hopefully, y'all hear me appropriately. If you're gonna keep listening, etc., etc., I hope I can keep this mic stand situated so that everything looks proper. You are tuned into The Proper Perspective with Shabazz. I am the host, Shabazz, with The Proper Perspective on youtube.com/at The Proper Perspective. Well, let me hit you with this little piece of wisdom from the Akan people, from whom we descend. This is a Pan-African pro-black channel, so just in case you weren't too sure, I like to spread knowledge. I like to drop jewels, as they say, but I like to use the cultures from which we came and the culture in which we still strive and build from today, whether we know it or not. So our Akan ancestors had this to say. They say the lizard does not join the birds to dance on the branch. The lizard does not join the birds to dance on the branch. And I think this is very applicable. I think the term is apropos, but it's very applicable to at least the question I'm asking. Should we care? Should we be joining in? Should we be trying to take the side of Zelensky or Trump? Should we take either side? Well, the lizard does not join the birds to dance on the branch. So at least that's my position from the historical wisdom of African culture is, you don't necessarily join every fight just because people are saying join the fight. Now, so again, correct me if I'm wrong. And shout out to Brian Moser. Shout out to Killer Donuts. That's an awesome name. Who joined in on TikTok. Let me see if I can see. Seems like okay. So everybody else is situated. So like I said, as far as I'm concerned, the Ukraine itself is filled with historical examples. And I don't necessarily mean ancient history. I'm just talking about like current modern day affairs. I don't think they've shown black people in general, whether it be in the Americas or on the continent, the motherland. I don't think they've shown groups of black populations any significant respect, love, appreciation. So I'm like, okay, let me start with the blatant racism. Because when that war popped off, when Putin and his people crossed that border, it was a mad rush for at least a certain amount, a certain group, a certain segment of the Ukrainian population. Of course, a lot stayed. That's how it's always going to be like that. In any type of civil unrest, in any type of wartime scenario, you're going to have a huge part of the population that stays put for whatever reason, good or bad. And you're going to have a certain segment of the population that say, we out. So for all of those Ukrainians that took off, there were black groups, there were black populations, there were Africans from the continent of Africa in the Ukraine. And so when it was time to head for the border, to jump on planes and to get out of there and seek safety, who got shoved to the back of the line? Who got kicked off of planes and boats and whatever else? It wasn't the Ukrainians. It was the Africans. It was black people. They got shoved to the back while Ukrainians skipped to my loo right on down to safety. It was Africans being told step aside or get up. This is the same Ukraine that I'm supposed to be waving a blue and yellow flag to? Or waving a blue and yellow flag for? For what? What's the point? Why would I do that? Why would you do that? Why should we do that? And so I'm like, well, let's not pretend now that it was just the border crisis, or this was the only time that there was a problem. Ukraine ain't exactly been rolling out the red carpet for black folks at the time of the war, before the war, since the war. Now, you want to go back to the pages of history, in the annals of history, you can look up Cuba. You see what Cuba did for black people. They actually helped African nations fight off the colonizers. Cuba sent doctors, Cuba sent soldiers. They even, they met with black American leaders and asked the black American leaders, what y'all want us to do? How you want us to handle this? What has Ukraine done? Ukraine ain't never did anything like that. They ain't done anything major for black countries or black communities. They haven't given aid. They haven't given support. They haven't given any real diplomatic partnerships. Now, if I'm wrong, you tell me. Come on into the YouTube chat and tell me, oh, you forgot about this or you forgot about that. I'll stand corrected. I'm not so attached to this view, to this what I consider a well-informed opinion that I will ignore facts and relevant information when presented. I mean, I did some digging. Like, I feel like I owe it to myself to do any kind of digging before I just jump online and start yapping. I can't find nothing. So again, If I'm wrong, you point it out to me. Feel free. I mean, like, so unless I'm wrong, what's in it for us? What do we have at stake for taking the side? What do we have at stake? Like, was Ukraine standing? Did Ukraine send a diplomat to the U.S. when we were protesting over George Floyd murder? I mean, I missed the memo. I don't recall nothing like that. But now all of a sudden, we supposed to care about their dilemma? I know Ukraine didn't send any memos over to the White House under any administration and say, yeah, we saw what the UN said. The UN said y'all owe them black people reparations. We think y'all should give it to them. They didn't come down the pike like that. But we supposed to care. Meanwhile, the US government has sent how much? Not thousands. How much? Not millions. How much? Billions. They've sent billions to Ukraine while they telling us they got $0 for us. We out here still waiting on reparations, still fighting for decent schools. We still trying to close the wealth gap that all the experts say it's going to be impossible to close unless we get reparations. The socioeconomic number crunchers have said, yeah, they got to, I don't care how much, I don't care how many jobs you give them. I don't care how many places and spaces you hire them in. If you wanted to close the wealth gap, there's only one way to do it in the U.S., in the USA, in this disunited snakes of America. You'd have to give reparations. Otherwise, there's no way that wealth gap can be closed. That's what the experts say. Now you tell me I'm wrong, but to prove I'm wrong, you got to show me, well, what experts are you looking at? Because the experts have already said, from what I've seen, that's their only shot at it. I ain't hear Ukraine say, man, that's bad. Y'all need to fix that. But we supposed to join in and care and lose sleep and stress out and be offended because Trump doesn't want to give him any more money. I am not a Trump supporter. Let that be known. I like how my brother Willie D say it, as far as yo president, not mine, yo president. I'm not with that. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. I mean, for that matter, I'm not even a Democrat. Now, I lean liberal. I lean progressive, but only so much as it relates to being pro-black, being Pan-African, being African-centered. So again, you want me to believe that the same government that tells us they're too broke to fix systemic racism, or the same government that tells us systemic racism doesn't exist, it's all in your mind, you just need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But they could pull out a checkbook with no hesitation and send billions to Ukraine. They ain't tell Ukraine, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, put on your boots and fight them Russians. I got problems. Now, as I dig into the annals of African history, when I look up into the books of African wisdom, I find out that our Igbo ancestors brought this nugget of wisdom with them from Nigeria when they was thrown on those boats and had to fight for their lives in Jamestown, Virginia. And so much so, I think they even got an Igbo village down there now to commemorate what they did to us down there. But the Igbo say, a man who cannot dance says the ground is too hot. A man who cannot dance says the ground is too hot. What that mean? What you talk about? What does that mean? Well, here's what it means. Hypocrites invent excuses to avoid responsibility. A man who cannot dance says the ground is too hot. Hypocrites, those who can't dance, invent excuses to avoid responsibility. Well, I would dance, but the ground is too hot. No, the ground ain't too hot. You just inventing excuses. So every time there is a call for black people to get reparations, they invent excuses. We're broke. And then they turn right around and send out billions. If we were to give that amount of money, the country would go bankrupt. It didn't go bankrupt when you sent money to Israel. It didn't go bankrupt when you sent money to Ukraine. You sending money over there to them every year by the billions. We looking for the one-time reparations break off. So let's be clear. The same politicians telling us to stand with Ukraine. And Facebook got some of our people stamping their profiles with the Ukraine flag. Y'all the same ones saying, oh, reparations, that's complicated. And then you veto any and every government study. And I ain't even saying, I'm clearly not saying that the government study is all that we asking for. The government study was step one. But all of the Republicans say no to step one. So if you're going to be mad, if you're going to tell me I'm out of touch, how so? How am I out of touch? The Republicans say no, we don't even want it to come to a vote. But the Democrats are trying to get it to a vote. All while the Republicans are saying we're going to send $1 billion on out the country on Monday. We're going to send another $1 billion out the country on Tuesday. And so on and so forth. Ukraine is getting straight cash, no study needed. Yeah, a man who cannot dance says the ground is too hot. Y'all know who can't dance. And don't get me started. Like, again, as we walk down the steps of history, y'all remember when the war first jumped off? Let's talk about the education field. And yeah, I try to keep my eye on education issues. I'm a retired teacher. It would make sense, wouldn't it? So in the education field, we see more of this hypocritical posturing that throws black people to the wayside. So when Russia invaded, everybody in the country was up in arms. PWIs and HBCUs, which really blew my mind. I really couldn't believe it, couldn't even understand it, still disagree with it. PWIs and HBCUs started tripping over themselves to offer free tuition, free housing, and scholarships to Ukrainian students. All the while, they got a long line of black students standing there hoping for an opportunity. It was actually reported that the University of Chicago launched a $20 million program that included tuition for Ukrainian students. They ain't said that there was no set aside. You say a set aside for black people, and they lose their mind. But they set aside $20 million for Ukraine. Texas A&M was also providing assistance for tuition and living costs. Even Hampton University, the golden standard, according to some black people who I ain't gonna even call no names. Hampton University in Virginia, my home state, invited up to 100 students affected by the war to study for free during the summer. Now, did Hampton invite any other students affected by the war in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Did Hampton University invite any of the students affected by the war in the Sudan or between the North Sudan and South Sudan? Has Hampton University invited any students in Black America who are affected by the war in the urban jungles to come study for free? But it's the Ukraine. Black American students are still drowning in $1.7 trillion of student debt. But they can send billions to the Ukraine. We still catching hell looking for scholarships and grants, and they just instantly pop up Sometimes you gotta pop up and show me. They popped up and they showed us. And African students fighting to get a visa just to get a glimpse of the opportunities. But the Ukraine, red carpet, whip of a pen. No debate, no bickering, no fighting on the Congress floor. Both sides. And Democrats wonder why they had a problem with voter turnout. But the Ukraine students deserve solidarity. Yeah, well, I got another proverb for you, and it's from the Igbo people again. Who is this? Somebody texted me. Well, I'm not going to answer that. Not right now. Let me see. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying this program, please be sure hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications for my next program over at youtube.com/@theproperperspective. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate you listening, tuning in, and etc. and whatnot. But I would love it if you came on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective. That's my cursor. That's my little commercial. So yeah, they say they want us to be in solidarity with the Ukraine. Well, the Igbo proverb I have for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is, or the second Igbo proverb, if the crocodile can eat its own eggs, what will it do? What will it not do to the flesh of a frog? If the crocodile will eat its own eggs, what will it not do to the flesh of a frog? So I say that I say that to say this. Where was all that solidarity energy when HBCUs were begging for funding to teach Black students? Or when African refugees from actual US-backed wars in Somalia, Sudan, the Congo, when they needed help? Nah, we're too busy funding a proxy war and educating their kids, while ours are stuck with loan officers and GoFundMe pages. Yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling this Ukraine thing. I don't care that the reporter tried to make fun of Zelensky not wearing a suit. It was a stupid joke. But I'm not, I simply was not going to be in uproars about it. And I've seen white podcasters, I've seen Black podcasters losing their, oh my God, I can't believe. It wasn't that bad. That man's still going to get that money at the end of the day. He going to still get more than what Black people going to get. I mean, the Ukrainians who left the country out of fear of war, an understandable thing, they were privileged enough to be able to leave while they trampled upon Black people trying to leave. And what did they do when they left Ukraine? So for anybody still trying to argue, well, the Ukrainians need our sympathy. Well, let's talk about what happened last year when all those exodus-ing Ukrainians fled their war-torn country. What did they do? They took shelter in melanated nations. Some of them took up shelter in Mexico. And what did they do? They started discriminating against Mexicans. Yep, they showed up as guests in someone else's land. And what did they do? If you remember that story, drop something in the chat for me. Had the nerve to ban indigenous people from their parties that they were throwing. Had the nerve to ban indigenous people from their businesses that they were setting up. Acting like colonizers all over again. They weren't acting like refugees. They weren't acting like people who needed help. They weren't acting like people who were grateful for the assistance. They were acting like privileged bosses taking over. So not only do they mistreat Black folks in their own country, they hop around the world and try to mistreat Black and brown people everywhere they encounter them. Sound real colonizer-ish. That don't sound like the kind of people we should be feeling bad for. That don't sound like the kind of people we should be losing sleep over. They go somewhere else, they turn around and disrespect the native people there too. But this is who we're supposed to be riding for? Come on now, make it make sense. I mean, ultimately, like, so you have one group of racist white supremacists in the orangutan cabinet making fun of another group of racist white supremacists in the Ukrainian cabinet. Why would we take part in that? We don't have a dog in that fight. We don't have a dog in that fight one way or the other. So for any, especially black folks, for any black folks who want to act like, well, Trump's snapping on Zelensky is rude and disrespectful. Y'all want to act like that's some great moral crisis. This man is shutting down USA government agencies, and you crying about how he treating a foreign diplomat. Neither one of them has done anything, and I mean not a thing, for black people. And all those conservatives that said we riding with Trump, the 20%ers of black men, the 8%ers of black women, the 55% white folk, the 45% Latinos for Trump. I don't even know what the percentages are, those Arab Americans for Trump who ditched Kamala Harris because they wouldn't let a Palestinian grab the mic. This y'all fight. This ain't our fight. This y'all fight. So I'm not riding with it. I'm not supporting it. I don't feel bad. If Zelensky loses the U.S. support, which I highly doubt would happen, but if he loses U.S. support, that's less money leaving the U.S. coffers, the nation's economy. Still ain't no, and what do we gain? What do we lose? They still gonna tell us we're not giving you reparations. They still gonna tell us we gonna cancel and shut down DEI. They still, what are they still attacking Social Security next? They everything that we got coming, they trying to get rid of, but we supposed to lose sleep because Zelensky might not get another tank. Come on now. Come on now. Make it make sense. Ukraine has been riding the U.S. gravy train for years. We've been told to sit on the sidelines. Ukraine's been assuming that the checks would never stop coming. We were told the checks will never start coming. Now that orangutan has seemingly pulled the plug, suddenly it's a crisis. It ain't a crisis for us. It has no impact on us whatsoever. Matter of fact, welcome to how black people feel. When you're told you might get something and then you don't get it. Welcome to the black experience, ladies and gentlemen. Grab a seat. And so, like I said, I'm not castigating. I'm not talking smack about Zelensky because I'm promoting orangutan. I'll never give a shout out to orangutan. I will never give a shout out to that man. I will never say that that man is doing something good. And at least not as long as he's on the trajectory that he is on. I'm not a Trumper. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a MAGA. No. And as far as that State of the Union address, in front of the nation, he made all these grandiose claims about American strength. He didn't give one sentence towards Black American issues. I don't care that he said something about a little child. And I don't care that, some people are mad because the Democrats didn't stand up or give an applause for what he did for that one little child. What that got to do with us getting reparations? What that got to do with us keeping our schools open? What that got to do with us getting jobs after we graduate? Nothing. So he made all these grandiose claims about American strength. He didn't give one single sentence or nod towards black issues that actually matter to us. He's out here talking about strengthening the economy while he's shutting down the economy. And black communities are always going to be hit worse once the smoke clears. We always end up with the short end of the stick, fighting for the same crumbs we've been asking for decades. He got us like a hamster on the wheel, running in circles. The gains that we already have made, he's taking them away just so we can fight for them again. So for all you black MAGA minions saying Trump was going to give us reparations, where you at? Where you at? I don't hear a word from y'all now. Now y'all moving the goalposts. Y'all ain't want to talk about it no more. Y'all ain't talking about reparations. Y'all spend more time complaining that Joy Reid was crying when she got fired. Like, who isn't going to be upset that they're getting fired? Mum's the word now on reparations. But I guess foreign wars, resources, I guess foreign wars and resource grabs are more important than righting the wrongs here at home. You rather talk about that. Yeah, I got it. Orangutan kicked out the one black man that was brave enough to speak truth to power, while the Democrats, even their most vocal advocates, sat silently holding up punked out signs. I gotta say it. Now, I'm glad they showed up. There was some conversation where they were saying that they may not even show up. I'm glad they showed up. Just for the optics of it, it was better that they showed up and held up those little punk ass signs. Because had they not shown up, the Republicans simply would have filled the empty seats with staffers, with anybody they possibly can. They would have grabbed the janitor, come over here and sit in this seat. They just would have filled the seat so that the optics would look like everybody's here and everybody's in agreement. So sitting there, even holding up the sign, still showed we ain't with this. So I ain't too terribly mad at the Democrats for making a show of resistance. I still don't think they did enough. Al Green did enough. He stood up, raised up that cane, and spoke words. Because the man don't have a mandate. That's just a fact. He don't have a mandate. If you look at the political definitions and the terminology, you get a mandate when you have an overwhelming majority of the vote. Doesn't matter if we got 5 categories of how we count the votes and you won in all categories, that's great. That's all fine. But that's not the definition of a mandate. If in all 5 categories you have a slim or a thin margin, it's still not a mandate. He don't have a mandate. You got to get the overwhelming majority of the votes to say you got a mandate. If 75% of the people voted for you, you have a mandate. He didn't have a 75% vote count. It was like 51-50 or something like that. So he doesn't have a mandate. That's the only time you can stand there and say, I got a mandate to do whatever I want to do. At least that's how it's always been in the past. So Al Green was right when he stood up and said, you're lying. You're misrepresenting. So, what y'all think about those signs that they held up? Drop something in the chat. Let me see if I got anything over here. Let me close this up and hit this chat button. Okay, so nothing's popping off there. So let's see, what did we talk about? Now, I just say at least over the next 2 years, the Democrats got to do something. I would say over the next 2 years, black people should be building their own political party. But that's me. I know a lot of y'all ain't gonna feel that. But I don't hear a whole lot of kicking up dust from Even the people that were third party candidates. Where is Jill Stein? Where is Dr. Ware? Where is Dr. Cornel West? I ain't heard nothing from them. They ain't took another trip to the Breakfast Club. They ain't took another trip to 19 Keys' podcast. They ain't been on The View anymore. Like, so was the third party wave just a shill? Was the third party wave just a psyop? Was it a scam? They only come out the closet when it's time to vote in the presidential election. Is that what it is? I mean, if they can't be vocal right now to keep you informed, why should we give them our vote in November or whenever it is in 2026? They don't need to come out the closet in 2026 if they ain't out the closet right now. So again, I'm not saying we should all be leaving the Democratic Party. I'm not saying we should join the Republican Party. I'm just pointing out these inconsistencies and hoping that it at least makes you think a little bit about where your voting loyalty should be. You want to talk about the real grift? You got orangutan and felon Ellen Muscat out here cosplaying as anti-establishment heroes, hyping up Dogecoin. I don't really do the Bitcoin stuff. Hyping up stuff on Truth Social like they're gonna save the working class. This is the biggest joke of all. I mean, you better off just voting for Bruce Springsteen if you wanted to save the working class. But where's the energy for using the crypto magic that Snoop Dogg was dancing about, that Nelly was partying over? Why ain't they using all of that influence to recover the $175 billion in US money that was sent to the Ukraine in the first place and invest those savings, since Doge is supposed to be finding government waste and abuse? Well, take that $175 billion that you say you're not going to send to the Ukraine and put it into the Black community. Those are savings where the Black community, Black America, would be benefited. Oh, that's right. Y'all scared of reparations. Oh, that's right. Y'all don't believe in reparations. Oh, that's right. We don't need HBCUs. You know, they could have funneled that money into the HBCU endowment system so that the schools aren't daggone near on the brink of closing every couple of years. They could have funneled that money into student debt cancellation so that people are no longer coming out of college with insurmountable debt. Nah, that sounds too much like right. It don't sound enough like white for y'all to do it. Nah, crypto is really about dodging accountability. That's what Doge is really about. Doge is about dodging accountability and propping up their own cults of personality. Yeah, Ukraine is still, I guarantee you, Ukraine gonna still figure out a way to get that cold hard cash. Just like the Ashkenazi get cold hard cash every year. Meanwhile, Black folks get memes and $8 blue check marks. These are white supremacist priorities, not Black folks. I'm telling you, Ukraine's still gonna get that money, no matter how much that dude was made fun of, no matter how much orangutan grandstanded for the cameras. He gonna go back into those rooms and he gonna make a deal. He gonna cut a deal. Speaking of cuts, Let's cut through the noise. Trump's disrespectful exchange with Zelensky wasn't just about cuss words, wasn't just about kiss the ring. It was really about rare earth materials or minerals. That's why I say he's still gonna make that deal. He said right there, what we want is those rare earth minerals. He gonna get them, like he said in his speech. We gonna get it one way or the other. Ukraine sits on. Did you know Ukraine sits on $12 trillion worth of rare earth minerals? They're not giving that up. They're not giving that up for nothing. Now, when I say they, I'm talking about orangutan. Orangutan ain't gonna give up that claim. He want them rare earth minerals. He gonna do whatever he can. He gonna make that dude bow down one way or the other. Ukraine is sitting on untapped lithium, cobalt, titanium, and it's a whole nother list of stuff that powers everything from iPhones to missiles. Man, I got people calling me. Ain't that something? I got people calling me, really interrupting the flow. So this $12 trillion constitutes, when you look at the whole world's worth and value in deposits, Ukraine has 5% of that $12 trillion worth of minerals that they have constitutes 5% of the world's lithium, for example. Lithium is needed for green energy, which orangutan say he don't even believe in. But the green energy boom that the U.S. claims that they care about, they only gonna care about it if they can control those rare earth minerals. So right off top, you know, this ain't got nothing to do with caring about Ukraine. This ain't got nothing to do with fighting tyranny. How could it possibly be about fighting tyranny when the man in charge wants to be a tyrant? When the man in charge looks up to another so-called tyrant? You don't fight the things that you believe in. You don't fight against them. You mimic them. You imitate them. But the whole exchange is just more gamemanship out of the colonial playbook. It's just it's a hat trick, ladies and gentlemen. The U.S. has always treated resource-rich nations like their own private ATMs. And when those rich nations start to stand up and say, hold up a second, nah, we need to have a conversation. Bow down. The U.S. is a bully. All they really want to do is suck the land dry while leaving the locals with pollution, poverty, and empty promises. Look at what they did to Liberia. Not Liberia, I'm sorry. Look at what they did to, no. Libya. Look at what they did to Libya. Look at what they've done in Palestine in and of itself. And it's another one I'm forgetting the name of. The Kurds. Look at what Bush did to the Kurds. Propped them up, gave them a lot of promises, and when the smoke cleared, pew, we out of here. We got what we needed. Ask the Congo, where cobalt mines fuels the tech revolution, the tech addiction. You can't have a new iPhone if it wasn't for the Congo. And the Congolese people are not being treated fairly. There would not be a Samsung S23. There would not be a Samsung Note 10, 20, or 25, or whatever it is. There would not be an iPhone 16, 17, or 21, or whatever it is, if it wasn't for the cobalt in the Congo. And look how they're doing there. They got children. America's supposed to be all about helping the children and keeping high standards. They forcing children to work in those cobalt mines for $2 a day. Zelensky is just the latest puppet pressured to trade his country's future for Western protection. Now, okay, maybe I'm supposed to have some solidarity sentiments because he's being thrown around or bullied around, beat up, made fun of. He's been forced to bow the same way that US imperialism tries to force all smaller countries, black nations, to bow. But again, the problem is Ukraine ain't never stood in solidarity with any black group. So, yeah, I can relate to the idea of them being bullied around, but they don't stand with the Congo. They don't stand with the Sudan. They don't stand with black Americans being misused and abused. Hey, I think it was Farrakhan that said, "This ain't your fight. Stay out of it. Have a seat, grab some popcorn." You know, black nations like Haiti and Sudan try to resist foreign exploitation. I don't hear all the media being in an uproar about them. I'm just here to make you think. I'm just here to make you think. Show me the CNN, the MSNBC, the Fox News host that's yelling and screaming about how bad the Sudan is being treated. That's yelling and screaming about how bad they have treated Haiti. I'll wait. I will definitely wait. I won't hold my breath. So again, Ukraine don't like us. Ukraine can't stand us. They don't like us. They don't help us. They don't care about us. But we supposed to ride for them? Like, I'm sorry. You know, I can stand with the Democrats on some things. I can stand with I ain't never really found anything I can stand with the Republicans, so I can't say that. I can stand with Democrats on some things. I'm not really a Democrat. I don't support them. I furtively believe that black people need their own political party. I ain't no fool. I know most black people ain't gonna work on building a political party. So, for all intents and purposes, we only got two until a third one emerges. With that is the case, I don't have a choice but to try to stand with the Democrats. But on this Ukraine issue, I ain't riding with that. Now I ain't jumping on the elephant train either. Not at all. Nah, I'm sorry. But for all of us, melanated brothers and sisters, y'all out here carrying water for people who wouldn't even let you on the lifeboat. Y'all the ones I wish would wake up. Y'all the ones I wish would wake up. Now, I gotta say, I gotta add on, you know, another one of my proverbs that I love so much. The Wolof people from Senegal, and they was caught up in the slave trade too. So many of us have roots with the Senegalese people, with the Wolof ethnicity of Senegal. But the Wolof people say when the fish dies, the river does not mourn. When the fish dies, the river does not mourn. Zelensky is the fish, ladies and gentlemen. Hell, for all of that, orangutan is the fish, ladies and gentlemen. When the fish dies, the river does not mourn. Life goes on. Okay, so I'm getting more text messages. So what's the bottom line? I like what Farrakhan said. He said this ain't our fight. Have a seat, grab some popcorn, throw some hot sauce on it if you like your spicy, and enjoy the show. Stay neutral. Mind your business. Don't let people guilt trip you into caring more about Ukraine than Ukraine ever cared about you. More text messages. My goodness. YouTube.com/@the proper perspective. YouTube.com/@the-proper-perspective. So before I say stand with Ukraine, I'm gonna say stand with Africa. Stand with Pan-Africanism. I don't want to hit. Like, share, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share, and subscribe to youtube.com/@the-proper-perspective. Like, share, and subscribe to youtube.com/@the-proper-perspective. Let me see. Shout out to DJ. I can't read. DJ Jacal 7D1. What's up, my brother? That's joining me on TikTok. If anybody else came in on Instagram, I can't see it. They're sending me something, and now it's gone again. Nope. Well, shout out to y'all on Instagram as well. YouTube.com/@the-proper-perspective. If you're gonna have a bleeding heart, have it for the people of the Congo who keep getting screwed over by the Western-backed multinational slave-making corporations. Look them up. They even made a surprise appearance during the Super Bowl halftime show, if you was paying attention. They're stuck in cycles of war, exploitation, just like we are over here. Now, the war might be slightly different, but if you don't think black Americans are in a war, you really sleep. They're suffering from cycles of economic underdevelopment, just like we are. Why? Because foreign corporations, it was Malcolm X that said we exist as a nation. So if we exist over here as a nation, then there are foreign corporations amongst us. Target, boycott. Walmart, boycott. And so on and so forth. Those foreign corporations and governments keep funding different armed factions or different groups to maintain control over the economics. Over here, the mines over there. Now, I would say what you really want to pay attention to, I ain't no Nostradamus type character. But as long as Ukraine is in play, now I don't know how long they're going to be in play. I still do furtively believe he's going to go behind those closed doors and make a deal regardless. But I do believe if something happens, if Zelensky gets help from someone else and they don't need American assistance, America just going to look around and be like, oh, well, we do got the Congo. They got rare earth minerals too. So if the Ukraine is in play or up for grabs or not signing any deals with the U.S., they're going to roll on over to Africa and remind African nations, y'all better belly up or else. They will increase the pressure on African nations to accept whatever they want to give them. They're going to bully them over lower prices. So even African nations need to pay attention. But that's why it's such an interesting thing that's going on in Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, because they all said, no. We're going to get rid of the Pone people. We're going to get rid of the Envelopians. We're going to do it on our own. We may take some help from Russia, but they're still doing it on their own. But either way, there is no black population on earth that's going to get treated fairly by the West. So some kind of way, all the black populations on earth got to figure out a way to come together and unite. And that's my proper perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Now, again, see if I could get all of the people on TikTok and Instagram to come on over to YouTube, I could carry this conversation a little bit further. Shout out to Doc Dreezy that's in the YouTube space. Let me put his comment on the. He said, I could care less about the war. We got problems here, and them Ukraine folks don't give a rat's about us. Shout out to Doc Dreezy. That's definitely a 100. That's a 100 right there. That's what that is. They don't care about us. They ain't never cared. I'm not even saying that they should. But if they want our attention, if they want our support, just like all those protesters that's protesting orangutan, you know, they've been starting to comment, how come the black people ain't showing up? Where the black women at? Why ain't y'all on the march line? Nah, if you want our attention, if you want our assistance, we got to break bread. We don't, it's the days of just supporting you are gone. The days of just supporting you are gone. If you're not going to give something, you're not going to get nothing. Y'all know what we've been asking for. Y'all know what we've been looking for. Y'all know what we've been fighting for. So you're going to have to put something up. You put something up and we'll put something up. But the ball's in your court. It ain't in ours. The ball is in your court, not ours. So it's time. Y'all clearly see when we protest, we get stuff done. When y'all protest, it's crickets. But we ain't protesting for your issues no more. So y'all go on out there and handle what you think you got to handle. If y'all got to turn into January 6th style protesters, have at it, my brothers. But not us. No, it's popcorn time for us. It's popcorn time for us. Because like I said, the lizard doesn't join the birds on the branch to dance. But again, ladies and gentlemen, let me see. Shout out to Art Concepts by JAC. He says, they scared because they know we can run this. That's most definite. They scared because they know we can run this. Every field that we get into, we take it over. That's why they don't want us in other things. They would hate to see us do in court. They would hate to see us do in the military what we did in sports. They don't want to see us do in any field. We got into education and we took that over. That's why Trump trying to shut down the Department of Education. Shout out to D who said it's popcorn time. And I got my hot sauce for it. I got my hot sauce for it. Most definitely. Shout out to Anthony Yamamo. Anthony Yamamo, who joined. Shout out to D who's joined. Shout out to Art Concepts by JAC. Shout out to Ernest Takweti. If I mess up your name, I am definitely apologetic. Shout out to D who said, what's up, proper? Everything is all good. Now, I missed some of these comments earlier, so I'm going back through them. Art Concepts by JAC said that's a hard thing to do. Now, I missed it, so I don't really know like what was the specific thing. Probably if I make my best assumption, he was talking about building that third party. And if that's the case, yeah, I know that's definitely a hard thing to do. But shout out to everybody that's listening along, following along, chatting along. Again, youtube.com. If you're on youtube.com/@thepopperperspective and you join the chat, I can extend this conversation. Let's try it again. Y'all know what's going on. TikTok making me prove I'm still live. Gotta slide. TikTok send you this puzzle to make sure you still alive. on the live. So I had to do that. But let me see. So like I said, it does kind of blow my mind when I see black folk getting bent out of shape over the Zelensky affair. So that's why I wanted to do this live tonight. I'm not gonna stay too much longer. I invited a couple of guests. I always invite somebody onto the show. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't, whatever. But you know, I hold it down myself. I got my own views and whatnot. The interaction is definitely great though. But like I said, so thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Shout out to everybody on TikTok, on Facebook Live, on Instagram Live, and on YouTube. And y'all know what I do. If you seen me before, y'all know what I do. Right before I get out of here, I start playing a little music. Let me share my screen. I didn't do a whole lot of screen sharing tonight, but let me share my screen because I'm about to get up out of here. So shout out to everybody.
Break it down with the proper perspective.
Shout out to everybody.
Break it down with the proper perspective.
And I'm fading out.
So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper